Well, hey there. Thank you for joining me. And if you are here live, thank you for taking the time out of your Friday to be here with me live. If you are watching me on the replay, thank you for taking the time to do that. The way I've been setting up these live streams are kind of piggybacking on the weekly podcast episode for the Driven Woman Entrepreneur. Whether I have a solo show and then I do a deeper dive on this live stream and answer questions for anyone who's here live, or I share my own thoughts about the guest interview that we had this week. So this week, I released an interview that I had with Mira Kotand. Now, Mira has been an online entrepreneur, a digital entrepreneur for a number of years now. She started off as a blogger, realized that she really enjoyed reading and her audience she enjoyed writing and that her audience really enjoyed reading. So she went from being just a blogger, and by the way, I'm using air quotes because blogging is work. She ended up writing her first book. Then she wrote another and another. Now she has multiple Amazon best-selling books, all for people who are creating businesses in the digital space. Some of the books are more geared towards bloggers. Some of them are more geared towards email marketing. Some of them are really geared toward just helping you figure out how to get started with your business, kind of more broad scope. And a lot of them are really focused on content creation. So I have followed her for a while. I've been a member of her audience for a while. I've read her emails for a while. And yes, I've purchased several of her books. What I found most interesting about the conversation that I had with Mira when we did this interview was that even though I'm very familiar with her content, I have read many of her emails, blog posts, and books. It wasn't until we had this conversation that a couple of things just really popped for me. What I took away from that I want to share with you is two things. One, you can passively consume people's stuff for weeks, months, years, and even decades. But the most powerful, meaningful, and lasting transformations that can happen are when you actually interact with that person. Now, I know very well that I have hundreds, if not thousands, of people in my audience who regularly consume my content and who will never work with me. And I actually love that. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Practicing generosity is one of my core values. And I know very well that not everybody can work with me. Not everybody wants to work with me. Not everybody can afford to work with me. And I so love that I can help them through my free content on the podcast, on my blog post, on my social media post, and yes, even on these live streams. But that being said, most people will not get anywhere near as far as they could get if they actually work with someone. So if you have been passively consuming content, mine and other people's, for a while, and while you feel like you're learning a lot and you're much more knowledgeable than you were before you consumed all this content, but it's not actually moving the needle in your business, you really should try to find a way to work with someone, whether it's me or someone else. It doesn't have to be one-on-one coaching. It could be group coaching. It could be a course where there is a component where you engage with the person teaching. But that personal contact really makes a difference. So that was takeaway number one. And then takeaway number two is I really realized that I've been overthinking and overcomplicating the way I do email. And Mira Kotand's awesome sauce, in my opinion, is that she is able to break things down in a way that is strategic. My brain needs that. I'm pointing to the wrong side. The left side of my brain, the logical side needs that. The right side could care less. So the logical part of my brain needs the structure and the strategy, because I have a hard time doing things if I don't understand why I'm doing them. In the 4 tendencies, I'm a questioner. My number one strength finder theme is strategic. So this isn't a choice for me. I have to know why I'm doing something in order to do it. Maybe not the first time, maybe not the first handful of times, but to do something on an ongoing basis, I really have to know why. And on a pretty deep level, like several layers down. So I really like that I get that from Mira. And as she's gone on in her own entrepreneurial journey, in her own journey as a teacher and a leader and a coach, that she continues to get better and better and better at really getting down to the deepest level of strategy. And fundamentally, people turn to us, people follow us, people pay attention to us, people give us their time and attention for guidance, support, and accountability. Now, that accountability piece is really, really, really hard to get if you're not actually working with the person in some capacity. You can definitely get the guidance. It's kind of hard to get the support if you don't have some level of engagement. But that being said, I literally yesterday, maybe it was 2 days ago, got a DM from someone who is part of my audience who detailed multiple changes that she has been able to make in her career as a result of consuming my content. She is not a client. We do not work together. She has engaged with me multiple times because she's a member of my private Facebook group. You can be too, by the way. And she DMs me. And I'm very generous about answering people's questions, even if they're not a client. If you don't believe me, try me. But the deepest level of transformation really does come from actually engaging with the person. So I had a couple of mind-blown moments during my interview with Mira, and I believe she had one courtesy of me in the way I was engaging with the information she gave me. But I also recognize that for anything that we do in our business to be sustainable, for it to be sustainable, it has to be simplified. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my email journey and what I have figured out as a result of following Mira, reading from her books, and also engaging with her on this call. A moment ago, I said that I make things too complicated, and I pretty much have a tendency to do that across the board. I'm often accused of making things complicated. And I think I just have the kind of mind and brain that is hungry for learning and appreciates complexity. So I don't just stop with the surface level of understanding. I just continue to drill down and down and down. That might be very exciting and stimulating for me, but it can overcomplicate things when I then want to take action, right? Passively learning might feel good, might be very rewarding. And if you are a person who loves learning like I am, be very careful that you don't get stuck there. That can be really a sticking point because you are enjoying the process of learning so much that you just keep learning. And if you're not putting things into practice, if you are not experimenting, if you are not implementing with email and other things, you're not going to move forward, period. You're going to be a very, very, very knowledgeable person who's absolutely stuck. And I say that with affection and respect because I've been that person. When it comes to email, where I started off was I was hearing from all the celebrity coaches and all the internet gurus that you have to have an email list. You know, the money's in the list. And everybody used the same analogies that you don't want to build your house on borrowed land. Well, most people don't actually own the land that their house is on. But anyway, I digress. They were all saying the same thing in almost the exact same words. You need to have a list. You need to email the people on your list regularly. You need to nurture that list, and you need to make offers to that list. And The "don't build your house on borrowed land" comment, which I also heard from all the celebrity entrepreneurs and gurus, was basically a reference to not expecting social media to do the work of nurturing your audience and preparing them to buy from you. I get it. In reality, if you are a coach, consultant, creative, or independent professional, the kind of people that I work with, you probably need a social media presence. Probably not as much of one as you might think. We'll talk about that on another live stream. But I strongly recommend that you do, in fact, have an email list. I'm not going to tell you because you don't want to build your house on someone else's land, aka social media. But we all know that every single social media platform has followed the same trajectory. It starts off as a open playing field, a level playing field. Anybody and everybody can jump in and start creating content. And when it's a brand new platform or the newest kid on the block, right now that would be TikTok. I'm recording this in mid-October 2022. Right now, the newest kid on the block is TikTok. Yes, it's been around for several years, but all the others have been around longer. You can get a ton of exposure and actually build something very quickly right now on TikTok. I have a client that I'm working with right now. She's been on the podcast as a client success story. Her name is Danielle Métive, and she built a substantial audience on TikTok, and then we turned it into a business. So, why do you need an email? Why don't you just get off this live stream right now, race over to your phone, pick it up, and start recording TikToks and let that take care of business? Well, because sooner or later, TikTok will do what every other platform has done, what Meta has done with Facebook and Instagram, what all the others have done is eventually you're going to have to pay for the reach that you get for free on TikTok right now. And eventually you're going to have to pay for that same reach on TikTok too. So if you're an early adopter, if you jump in on a platform before everyone else does, if you really learn how to work on that platform and create content native to that platform that really pops, you can do extremely well. You can't do that on every platform unless you have a huge ass team and you have different people doing all that for you. In which case, you're probably not following me. So if you are a solopreneur like I am and the people that I work with, you may have a small team of virtual assistants, or you may still be doing everything yourself. If you are, I have mad respect for you. It's a lot. It can be done. It can absolutely be done. And when it comes to emails, I do believe that you need to email your list regularly. Does that mean you need to email them every single week? I don't think so. It depends on you, your bandwidth, your offers, your audience, what you're selling, whether your offers are evergreen, they're always available. They can buy it from you anytime, or whether you have a launch model where you run a program 2, 3, 4 times a year. So you have launches, you open the cart, you close the cart. That's different. But you cannot expect a significant percentage of your audience to find your posts on any social media platform at this moment unless you're paying for ads. And that is why you need a good email strategy. It's pretty demoralizing when you consider that you can spend a lot of time, a lot of money, or both producing content for social media platforms, and only 3% of your audience, and I mean the people who decided to follow you, who took the action of asking you to be a Facebook friend, following you on LinkedIn, Instagram, like they decided to become a part of your audience. They took that action. And only 3% of them are seeing anything that you produce, unless you're paying for ads. That's going to happen on TikTok and whoever comes after TikTok. So for me, the smart skill is to have an email list. Yes, you need a presence on social media, probably. It really depends on your business model, your niche, your target market, your offers, all of those things beyond the scope of this live stream. But your email list is one reliable way that you can reach out to on a regular basis. You decide what frequency regular is, to inform the people who said they want to know about what you're doing. And the best email marketing plan should include some personal stuff. I was so bad at this for at least a couple of years. It was strictly business with me. I didn't put any personal stuff at all. And while people may admire or respect my knowledge, if they don't get to know me at all as a person, they will lose interest, period. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be an open book or I have to be an open book. Doesn't mean I have to share every little detail about my life, but things that I feel comfortable sharing, like we're on the move again. I've lived in LA all my life. 2019, we moved to Portland, Oregon. We lived there for 3 years. We've now moved back to California, but to a completely different area. That's something I feel very comfortable sharing. I also feel comfortable sharing that my best friend, my buddy, my little boy, Chico, who I had for 11 years, became terminally ill at the beginning of summer and passed on September 12th. I shared that. Not every gory detail, but I shared that journey. I also shared that I've adopted a new puppy and introduced her. So I don't talk a lot about my kids. I don't name them. And I never talk about my husband, except like I refer to him as the fact that I have one. Or I might say my German husband, because my husband is from Germany. Or I might reference something he said to me or somewhere we went, because he's a very private person. But I'm still including personal information. So I think that is a must. I don't think it should be all personal. You are a business owner and you are selling business services. But if they don't know anything about you as a person, a real life person, it's going to be very hard for them to develop enough of a connection with you to ever consider working with you or buying something that you've created. I do believe you need to email your people regularly. Now, that may be every week. I email every week because I know that my audience, I know what my open rate is, and that's what percentage of people you send an email to actually open it and read it. I also track my click-through rate because I always have at least one link in each email for something that they might decide to click on. Could be a quiz, could be a podcast episode, could be an interview I've done on another podcast, could be a wait list for an upcoming program, but there's always at least one clickable link. And I track those. I also track my unsubscribes. It is sort of the lower hanging fruit of engagement with the people who some of whom may become your customers. I think the absolute lowest fruit, in fact, I would think of it as the fruit that has already ripened so much it fell off the tree or bush and it's on the ground. You can just freaking pick it up, is social media. I don't personally believe anybody goes to social media looking for a coach, consultant, creative, or independent professional. I think the platforms would like us to believe that people do, because then we're going to spend a lot of time there hanging around trolling for business. But most people go to social media to be passively entertained or to engage with people they know or follow. Not to buy, but to just, it's low-hanging fruit. So I don't think it's wise to put all your emphasis on social media. Some people claim it's really great and they build a huge audience on it, but I don't see that with the majority of my clients, and I certainly haven't experienced that myself. Your email list means you give people a reason to give you their email. You give them something of value to them in exchange, and then you regularly send them emails and give them a reason to open them. Now, my conversation with Mira was really about writing emails that you actually enjoy writing and the people who have subscribed enjoy reading. Now, this is both more difficult and easier than we might think. Let's go with what the subscriber gets out of it. It's not about crafting the perfect subject line, although if you craft a subject line that evokes curiosity or provokes some sort of a reaction, that's probably more likely to get opened than something that doesn't. For example, if your subject line is this week's newsletter, like I wouldn't open that. I wouldn't, even if I liked the person. Obviously, I like them enough to have given them my email and know that they're going to email me regularly. So if you say, I decided to adopt a new puppy, but I didn't expect this. Okay, now you've almost created a story in the subject line. Now, I didn't send that, by the way. I just thought of it right now. But like you're creating a story with a little bit of a cliffhanger because now you're like, oh, she adopted a puppy. Everybody loves puppies. They really do. And you've created a little bit of curiosity, a little bit of suspense. They're more likely to open that. But what Mira told me on our interview was the number one reason why people open your emails is not because your subject line is clever. It's because they're from you. And that kind of blew my mind just a little bit because so many of the celebrity entrepreneurs and gurus out there, the ones that claim to make marketing easy and income passive, they will tell you that there's this specific strategy and this is what you need to do and so on and so forth. None of them have ever said the number one reason why they open your emails is because they're from you. Because if they did, then we probably wouldn't buy their email marketing courses and we probably wouldn't enroll in their coaching programs about how to get better at sending email. Think about this. If somebody you know from your personal life sends you an email, do they have to hook you with a clever subject line? Chances are they don't even use one unless their email provider forces them to or they won't send it. You open it because it's from them. So the follow-up question is, how do you create the kind of relationship with people through email that makes them want to open it because it's from you? Include personal information that you feel comfortable sharing that kind of rounds you out as a real person. Now, I'm kind of an open book, but I'm also a little guarded in some areas of my life. So people who follow me know that I love Peloton. They probably know that I love bacon. They probably know that I'm a Buddhist. They probably know I've been married a couple times. They probably know I have 3 adult children. I mean, I share things. They know I swear. They know I'm kind of sassy. They know I've changed careers several times. They know I've moved several times in the last couple of years. So they start to put together a picture of who is Diane Wingert. Now, the ironic thing is I recently sent an email to my list with the subject line, "Who is Diane Wingert?" And believe it or not, it had a lower open rate than most of the other emails that I have sent over the last few months. Isn't that interesting? So I think if you approach your email marketing as an experiment, an adventure, and kind of a game, so that you can say, like a kid would, I wonder what would happen if I do this. Now, if you happen to have a little bit of impulsivity in your DNA, it's not a bad thing when it comes to that because you can try things and see what happens. You can try varying if you email people weekly, you can try varying what day of the week you email them. You can try varying what type of content you include in your emails. You can try varying the frequency. Do every other week for a few months and see if you notice any difference. I also realized in my conversation with Mira that giving people a reason to open your emails means not giving them a magazine every time you email them. Stop doing newsletters if you're doing them. Newsletters probably worked pretty well a couple of years ago, but they don't work well now. Why? Because as time goes by in this digital world that connects us all, the number of emails people are receiving, the number of text messages people are receiving, the number of DMs and voice messages, the number of social media posts they scroll through is exponentially increasing. And what that means is information overload, friends. People are overwhelmed with the amount of information that they consume willingly and unwillingly. And if you think about somebody who's a working person, they have their work emails, they have work communication, they may have meetings, they may have a Slack channel at work or some other platform they're required to be on. I mean, people are overloaded with information. So one of the biggest takeaways from my interview with Mira Kotand is, in order to give people a reason to open your emails, let them actually get to know you and don't overwhelm them. I've been sending newsletters for the last couple of years, and man, I really appreciate how loyal my audience is because I have a really good open rate. But I do not take that for granted, and I don't want to abuse that. Because in reality, I know that people have a lot of other things to do besides read my freaking emails or watch this live stream or listen to my podcast for that matter. Yes, I believe the content is valuable. I believe the content is very valuable. But even valuable content can be overwhelming because it's competing with all the other forms of information and marketing messages and work messages and family messages that everybody's brains are trying to contend with. So a change that I have already made as a result of my interview with Mira is that instead of sending a newsletter every week, which this is the way I set it up. I had an intro, I had a nice headline, I had a little preview. I had an introductory paragraph or two. Then I would talk about the podcast episode of the week, link to the podcast. Then I would share with them one or more podcast interviews I had done on other people's shows that had published that week and link to those. Then I would talk about maybe an offer that was coming up and they could get on the wait list. And then I would talk about the quiz they could take, and then I would invite them to be on the Facebook group. Literally, it was like every single week I was giving them everything I had. It was literally like, watch this, listen to this, read this, sign up for this, do this. How about this? It's like, you like me now? You like me now? How about you like me now? Hey, if you want more of me, do this and do that. It's like, this is ridiculous. I didn't even recognize it. Why? Because I was following the advice of some celebrity guru. It's no longer relevant. People are not going to appreciate that you gave them so much if they do not have the bandwidth to consume everything you give them. This is the single biggest change I am making in my business now and going into 2023, and not just in my emails. I am going to stop over delivering. You know, in the last few years, we have all been, in order to sell whatever we're selling, our individual coaching, our group coaching, our courses, our hybrid programs, our masterminds, our whatevers, the tendency for the sales pages to get longer and longer and longer and longer. And it's like, and then there's this, and then we're going to give you this, and then we're going to give you this, and this has a value of this, and here's the early bird bonus, and here's the buy now bonus, and here's the affiliate bonus, and it's bonus, 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 bonus. We have literally trained people not to hit the buy button until we have literally emptied out our entire business onto a sales page. Like, I'm literally going to give you the farm, the whole farm, the animals, the land, the buildings, all the equipment. Like, here you go. Unless somebody wants to be a freaking farmer, they don't want all that. You don't have to give them the whole kitchen sink either, or any of these other analogies. We need to help people right where they are to take the next step and the next step and the next step. We don't need to impress the fuck out of them with everything we know and how smart we are. Because one of the lessons I've learned the hard way, which seems to be the only way I know how to learn anything, people don't need to know how much you know. They don't need to know how impressive you are. They do not need to know what a badass you are and how capable you are and how vast your expertise is. They need to trust themselves to be able to learn from you and implement what they learn. And if you give them too much, they may be super impressed, but they will not hire you. And even if they hire you, they will not have a good outcome. They will not achieve their desired results because you will over fucking whelm them. This is for me too. I am speaking to myself because this is a lesson I need to learn. And I did it in my emails. I'm not going to do that anymore. So this is the makeover I'm doing, and I'm suggesting, not recommending, because you're not my client, but maybe you try and play around with. Practice trying a different frequency with your emails and see if it has an impact on engagement, open rates, click-through rates, or unsubscribes. Even if you don't want to do that, if you're really wedded to the idea of sending an email every single week on Thursday, and that's your cadence and you like it and you want to stick with it, awesome. Because most people are not consistent. Most people are not consistent. So if you need to become more consistent, by all means, do it weekly until you develop the consistency habit. And then you can maybe play with doing it on a different frequency. I would first start by changing the amount of content you put in the email and the amount of calls to action. If you don't know what a call to action is, it's a request for them to take a next step. Join my Facebook group is a call to action. Follow me on Instagram is a call to action. Sign up for my wait list for when my new program launches is a call to action. Listen here to this week's podcast episode is a call to action. Check out my interview on XYZ show is a call to action. And if you share your perspective on something and ask a question in the email, basically, here are my thoughts. What do you think about this topic? Hit reply and let me know. That is a call to action. Based on my conversation with Mira Kotan for the interview released this week on the Driven Woman Entrepreneur podcast, I have decided that for the next maybe 3 months, maybe longer, I'm only going to put one call to action in each email. And I'm going to vary what I put in each email so that people are not lulled into a stupor because they know exactly what they're going to get from me each week. To sum up, I think the creative challenge before us is how to actually create an engagement with people by being consistent enough that they learn to trust and depend on you, and having enough variability in that consistency that you are leveraging the element of surprise and evoking their natural human curiosity. How it looks for me is they know I will send them an email each week. That's what I'm doing for now. It may change in the future. But now they're not going to know exactly what's going to be in that email. I'm infusing more of my personality. I'm infusing more personal stuff. And I'm making it less about my business, my business, my business, my business, my podcast, my podcast, my podcast, my podcast. I don't know why it took me this long to figure it out. That is boring. I would be bored if I got that. So if you are watching this and you are a regular subscriber to my email, I want to thank you for sticking with me while I figured this out. I really appreciate it. And if you are watching this and you are one of my email subscribers, please hit reply to my next email. Let me know that you saw this live stream and tell me what you want me to include in my emails. What have you been hoping, wishing, or waiting for from me? And I guarantee you, you're going to get it. That's all for now, folks. I'll see you next week.